Another bright day it is in Flamingo City as we continue the search for the greatest debaters in Nakuru region. I am your host, Esperancia Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Our intellectual teams today will be seeking to answer one simple question. Is the lack of food security the greatest threat facing Africa today?
Proposing this motion, we have Kongotik Girls High School.
And opposing the motion, we have Langa Secondary School.
Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
If I may ask, can any one of you do without food? I strongly propose the motion that goes, lack of food security is the greatest threat facing Africa today. And to start with, food security. This is the having available sufficient resources, both economic and physical, to obtain appropriate food for a nutritious diet. And lack of food security is, the food is there, yes, but it is not enough. The food is not sustainable. And to start with, you all know that when there is lack of food security, this breeds food shortages. And who ain't familiar of the impacts of the food shortages? To start with, lack of food security breeds a high debt burden because we'll keep on depending on aids to get food. And you know what? We are already independent. And up to when are we going to depend on other people for food, for aids, for donors? I mean, we're just above that. And another thing is that overemphasis on cash crop farming. We get to see that this has contributed to low food crop production because let's take an example for like Kenya. Most of the farms take the price of the cash crops because, like tea, we find that most of the hectares depend on tea, others go for coffee, and others for sisal. These are not the things that are readily edible because tea, it takes a lot of time to mature, same as coffee. It takes around 8 good years. And who's going to wait for all those years to feed? Let's take beans. It only takes 3 good years for them to mature, and they can be readily edible. While when you go for sugarcane, it takes 18 months, and we find that we need the smallest quantity to use it. So please, let's increase our thinking capacity and go for the things that better us. And on to my third point is that the poor storage and inadequate facilities. This has reduced the food availability, and as research has confirmed that a great of food that is harvested in Africa goes to waste due to poor storage facilities. I'll take you back to 2001. Almost 9 million of grains were lost due to poor storage facilities. And in Kenya during the 2007 post-elections, a cereal in Eldoret was burnt down, and the cereal contained millions and millions of bags. Or are you going to tell me that we should go for a compulsory fasting hunger strike? Even Jesus fasted for only 40 days. Let's deal with the things that improve our lives. Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
And quote, maskini atazidi kuwa maskini na tajiri atajiriki zaidi. End of quote. These are the lyrics of a song by a famous musician, Jaguar, who is currently an honorable MP of Starehe constituency in Nairobi. My name is Cecilia Gadhoni from Langa Secondary School, and I'm here strongly opposing the motion that states lack of food security is the greatest threat facing Africa today. Now, as we start, we all know truly that lack of food security is a threat facing Africa today, but also we have other threats facing Africa. For example, poverty, corruption, infestation by pests and diseases, terrorism, all these are threats that we should all consider before branding food insecurity as the greatest. First of all, poverty is the root cause of hunger and food insecurity. You see, it's true, there's no way that you can work without food, but where are you going to go to get the food if you do not work and purchase it? Look at it this way. Poverty is the cause of lawlessness and lack of and crime rates. For example, the recent crimes like suicidal killing, where you find a mother or a parent has killed has killed his or her children or the family just in order, for example, to get money, or someone has sent him or her to kill so that he can get money or paid. Well, you see, the leading cause of poverty is corruption and poor governance, and also civil wars. Do you know that 220 million of people living in sub-Saharan region are poor? Well, that's according to the World Bank. This poverty has also caused poor economic growth and low employment, which, as I have said, it has led to crime rates. In Wajir, for example, right here in Kenya, the prices of rice, which is the staple food in Wajir, has risen up from 60 to 80 shillings, which, while the price of sugar has doubled. This is the purchasing power. The purchasing power of people has almost become nil, and that is in Wajir, here in our country, Kenya. Poverty, look at it this way. There's no way that you can tell us that food insecurity is the greatest threat facing Africa, and yet we have poverty. In Kenya, for example, the largest slum in Africa is Kibera slums. And when we say that food insecurity is the one that has caused such kind of a thing, obviously it's irrelevant. And also the other thing, lack of food security cannot be branded as the greatest, also because of infestation by pests and diseases. Like, for example, early this year, we had infestation by armyworm in our midst that started in Uganda, and right now it's in Kenya. The government has used 1 billion just to eradicate and fight armyworm as a disease. I would like to leave my proposers with a question that says, if you say that food insecurity is the greatest threat facing Africa today, is it that when we solve this food insecurity, we can eradicate poverty once and for all? Please answer that. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Failing to plan is planning to fail. If we don't find a better solution concerning food insecurity, therefore, we are definitely going to fail. I'm Mercy Chebet, Kongotik girls. I strongly stand in to propose the motion by saying that lack of food security is the greatest threat facing Africa today. And before I continue, I'd like to answer my colleague from the opposite side, who said that if we cap food insecurity, we are going to eradicate poverty or what? But let me tell you, that's true, because lack of food security makes our people suffer. It makes our people grow poorer and poorer each and every day. So therefore, it is high time that we find a better solution concerning food insecurity. And on to my first point, I'll say that due to lack of food security, there is migration among the people. People migrate from their own countries to other countries in search of food. Take an example of the largest camp in Africa, that is Dadaab. How do you expect those people to survive without food? Those people move there from their own home countries to look for food. And hereby we come and complain that we are fine. We are talking of corruption, that corruption is making us to suffer more than food insecurity. It is high time that we rise above that. It is high time that we take another step ahead and find a way in which we can curb food insecurity. And on to my second point, I'll talk of increase in poverty level. Due to food insecurity, we cannot move on because we shall grow poorer and poorer each and every day. Each money that we allocate, that we could have allocated into doing other things, we take it in allocating food, in by purchase of food. So our country, Kenya, has allocated a lot of money in regard of purchase of food. So it is for our leaders and each and every one of us to find a better solution on the way we can curb this food insecurity. And to my other point is that food insecurity has caused the increase in crime rates. This is because you get to find that People engage in crime activities like car hijacking, robbery with violence, pickpocketing, and many others. This is because these people lack food. Or do you expect me to stay without food? How do you expect my children to stay without food? It is high time that we find a better solution so that we can curb this food insecurity for the better of our country state. And anyway, I will take it as another problem because this thing is making us to suffer each and every day. I'm Mercy Chebet, Kongotik girls.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Well, those were the meaningful words I heard from the proposer side. Exactly. Nothing. Now, let me correct you, my friend. Food storage. Is food storage a threat or food security is? Please stop contradicting yourself. The motion is food security, lack of food security, not lack of food storage facilities. And also you said that the Dadaab refugees were here to look for food. But sorry, they were not here to look for food. They were here to they were escaping insecurity and political instability. All right? Now, I want to go first to my first point, and that is pest and disease. Now, pest and disease is a major threat in Kenya, let alone Kenya, but Africa. Now, let me inform you on pest and disease. Pests. First, 35 million hectares in Africa is on maize. And probably 45% of this land is infested by pests. That means that this may lead to food shortage. And probably when there is food shortage, that means that there is going to be an increment in the food prices. And what if there is food prices is increased? That means that people are going to steal from each other. That means that people are going to kill one another just to get this food. Now, let me give you a correct figure. 20% of the land in Zimbabwe is on maize, and it is all destroyed. All of it, nothing left. Now, this means that, just as I have uttered, there is food shortage. Now, their solution is going to be that they're going to import food. Now, if they import food, that means that they're going to use a lot of money to buy this food that if they had controlled the pest, they will not have to incur these expenses. That was by the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization findings in 2011. Now, let me give you another serious threat facing Africa. Let me give you Kenya, for example. Terrorism. Now, terrorism is when people come here, destroy your peace. Now, if we start, let me give you an instance. Westgate Siege. Now, if the Westgate Siege, there were only 4 attackers, and the Kenyan military was sent there and found none. We needed to import Israel military army to come and give us advice on how to undertake this issue. Now, if we start thinking of food security, whom are we securing food from if our people are not secured? Thank you.
The proposers have been asked in relation to their question that do we want our children to sleep hungry? Don't they think that we need family planning before we deal with food security? And the opposers have been asked, in order to fight the other threats facing Africa, don't we need food to get strength for that? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer the question.
As the wisest man ever, King Solomon said, for sure, where knowledge lacks, people perish. Maina Laurin from Kongotik girls. Yeah, only to respond to my question, to your question. Yeah, in as much as we require family planning, we need this food. I mean, lack of food security is a threat. We have to agree. I believe everyone, before you came in here, you ate a bite of something. I mean, you had a bite of something. It's what is keeping you moving. Why then should we go on saying that lack of food security is not the greatest threat we have in our country? My colleague here from the opposer said that we have pests and diseases. When we curb pests and diseases, it's part of food security. So I believe you are joining us this other side. And onto my first point, food insecurity will bring about spread of diseases and pandemics. I know you'll ask me, well, how? It's this way. Lack of food security brings about food shortages. And you know when there's food shortage, people will access undernourished food. And you know the effects of undernourished food? We'll have diseases, definitely. Where do you live, marasmus? Where do you live, koshiakos? I mean, judges and parents in the house, will you be comfortable having children with nutritional diseases? Have you ever taken a picture of how these children look? I mean, don't you people understand how lack of food security is the threat you're facing in our country today? We'll also have erosion of national prestige. It's this way. Lack of food security, as I've said, breeds food shortages. And you know when there's food shortages, we'll definitely run in for grants and aids. It's now over 50 years, ever since our country gained independence. And it seems that you're going back to slavery. Why should we not secure the food we have in Kenya? I mean, don't you know these countries which offer aids are death traps? I mean, these aids are death traps. Ain't you people cautious of neocolonialism? Don't you know that these developed countries are very cunning? Can't we stand on our own? Whenever will organizations like IMF or World Bank ever be deleted from our minds? I mean, can't we stand on our own as Kenyans? I'm so worried that they still have opponents. And yet they also depend on food. How can we fight insecurity without food? How can we fight? I mean, how can we fight corruption without food? Who knows? The corrupt leaders are stealing money to satisfy their needs. I mean, food. Are you forgetting that food is a basic need? We are Africans, I believe so. Or am I in another continent? How can you go on saying that you have other threats, forgetting the best threat? I mean, lack of food security is indeed the greatest threat you're facing in our country today. It's the high time we tell each other the truth. I don't know why we should go on kicking around the bush. We need food. I mean, food. We need it. Thank you.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to your question.
The answer to the question, yes, we need food in order to survive. But I think there's no need of ensuring food security when we don't have any person to feed the food to. So, my name is Kongotik from Langa Secondary School, and I'm standing here in front of you strongly opposing the motion that states lack of food security is the greatest threat facing Africa today, or food insecurity is the greatest threat facing Africa today. Food hoarding is indeed a threat facing Africa today. Like, take it for instance, in Mozambique, there was an issue about food riot. In September 2010, people took to the streets after the government announced 25% to 30% food increase. So, food increase here is a problem. There's no way that a person can go and purchase a food when the person cannot afford the food. Like, Seasonal Agriculture and Food Security in 2012 said that soaring world food prices has made matters worse. In Kenya, the prices of maize had tripled, and the rains had been plentiful. Take it for instance, an estimated 3.5 million Kenyans were in urgent need of food. So 533,000 refugees in overcrowded Dadaab camps near the border of Somalia as of July 2014 needed food. So who is to blame? So my point is, there's no way that we can stand here saying that food insecurity is the greatest threat facing Africa today, while we have other greater threats facing Africa today that we need first to solve before food insecurity. Because in one or another, if we solve food hoarding, if we solve poverty, if we solve tourism, we can solve food insecurity. Comfort, over and out.
Proposers, you have 1 minute for final submission.
Thank you. It's not a matter of having your own opinion. It's a matter of facts. I mean, it's the high time we hit the nail on the head. Can we do without food? Who can do without food? I mean, this is a basic need. We require it in our lives. As I've said, even people in Dadaab camp are registering day in, day out, high number of deaths. Why? They don't have access to enough food. We have, as a country, to solve and curb food insecurity. Don't you people know what impacts food have in our lives? We are Africans, remember. We should not go on solving things such as corruption, yet the food itself, we can't access it. I mean, let's be realistic, friends. It's the high time we think about it. Food, food, food. We once again need this food. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Yes, it is true. There's no way that we can survive without food. But if we have food and we have no one to feed the food to, if we have food, can it bring political stability? If we have food, can it abolish corruption? If we have food, can it save the lives of the people who keep on dying because of floods? Can it? So, yes, we need food security in Africa and also in Kenya, but let's first address other major problems before we address food insecurity. Thank you.
Kongotik. Cynthia, you started your team off on a high note, and which was maintained. It was maintained all the way to the end, except that we would have wanted a more logical flow of thought, especially from Mercy. You have the body language and the style, but that should have been accompanied by stronger points on the point of Mercy. Mercy, that would have helped your argument quite a bit. Laureen, you have a great stage presence. You have an authority there. As you speak, you're able to connect with us, and you're able to hit the nail on the head. The idea of AIDS changes. When you talk about AIDS and aid, those are two different things. Ours was help. We are talking about aid, not AIDS. Threat is negative. If you talk about the best threat, it is contradictory. So it is the worst of them, not the best threat. Good work by Kongotik.
To Langa, Gary, I still have a question on that. So when you did the quotes and said siege, that was intentional. Okay, that's a new style. I think we better take note of that. Okay, so I thought it was something different. Because you said it so confidently, and I was wondering, whoa, okay. Cecilia, you're a good speaker. Nobody should tell you anything different, okay? You stood there and you confidently brought in the first submissions. That was good. That does not mean that Kongotik girls, as my colleague has said, you're all. I think there's something about your team, all right? Especially Cynthia, when you have delivered and you have sat, don't feel defeated. You went there and you're all there saying, oh God, what have I done? No, it was okay. So you don't want to show us like you feel defeated, all right? Be confident with what you have done. Comfort, I think you have that confidence. So now develop your style of deliveries, okay? All the best.
Langa High School, the judges awarded you 66.5%. Let's appreciate them. Kongotik Girls High School. It was a close run. The judges awarded you 66%, making Langa the winners of the debate. A round of applause for them.
A great man once said, "We are the change we seek. We can be that change by implementing at least one sustainable development goals, not only in our community, but also our schools." Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to appreciate all those who were able to make this show a success.
Also, keep the conversation going on all our social media platforms. The hashtag to use is SGDC for SDGs. I have been your host, Esperantia Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Until next time, stay tuned.